we all set too? Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 7:03 of the Narragansett School Committee. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, I'd like to thank everyone for coming. And we did not have executive session, so we did not take any votes today. So I'm going to turn things right over to Dr. Cummings for our showcase.
Thank you, Tammy. It is my pleasure to welcome Katie Jones to our meeting this evening. So Katie, who you have met before when she was here with the Model UN, has recently been honored by the state of Rhode Island and Secretary of State Greg Amore as our Civics Teacher of the Year for Rhode Island. So I had the pleasure of going to the State House to the ceremony honoring Katie. She was nominated by students. She had a whole group of students and parents there to cheer her on and for her great honor, which says so much about her and her teaching, to drag bunch of high school students up to the State House on a Monday night. And so, you know, really, she is just simply amazing. And so her teaching being recognized in this way is an honor to Katie. It's an honor to our high school and to our district. And so I know I want to give Katie a couple of moments to share both about the honor, and I believe she's going to share some of the words that she spoke at that ceremony that evening. So with that, welcome to Katie. There you go.
Thank you for that. That was really nice. And I would just like to echo how nice it was to have a crowd of students go all the way up to the State House. It was adorable. They were all dressed up and very sweet and very excited. And Mia DeLuise, who is one of the students who nominated me, she introduced me. And it's really hard to follow a speech after Mia DeLuise. It was phenomenal, and she did a great job. And as Dr. Cummings mentioned, I do have the remarks that I said there. I was going to give a version of it. Sorry, Dr. Cummings, that you have to hear it again. But here is sort of what I said on the day of. So first, the students who nominated me, I told them then that this is the nicest thing students have ever done for me. And it was Mia, Karuna, Grace, Tegan, Kaylin, Sarah, and Philly all wrote something for this, which is really, really, really nice of them. And I'm so lucky to be their teacher. And it's an absolute dream to witness their drive to make this world a better place and to field their deeply analytical questions about why systems work the way they do and what would happen if they tried to change it. And I also then think, but also I'm thinking again, is like the district and my department heads and my principal for being so supportive and going along with all my civics schemes, including Ninja Turtles for President project, which sounds very weird to an outsider, but has been one of the most fun civics things I think I've ever done. And I'm really lucky to work with educators in a district that are so excited to see young people embrace their civic power. And then a little background, I did not actually plan on becoming a teacher or a teacher of civics. When I was 23, I moved to Lebanon and enrolled at the American University of Beirut, and my goal was to get a graduate degree, get really good at Arabic, impress everyone with my brilliance, and then immediately after graduation, I would be appointed Secretary of State. But while I was in grad school, I got a job at a Lebanese youth-led democracy organization, which focused on civic education and dialogue between different religious groups. And in Lebanon, the conflict and polarization there is much, much more heightened than even in our own country today. The young people involved in that, who are all high school and college age, all from different religious backgrounds, worked in schools around the country, combated decades of division, and fought against their peers' disillusionment with their government. And for me, it blew my mind about what civics can do and what dialogue can do. I ended up writing my master's thesis on what they were doing on civic education in divided societies. Then when I finished my degree, I turned down an offer to be Secretary of State, which is a joke, and I got a job teaching 9th and 10th grade history at the American Community School in Beirut, and this coincided with the height of the Syrian refugee crisis. And so I saw my new students who were very frustrated with their government's complete inaction during a time of very, very high need. And they found ways to address the people in their community who are fleeing from war. So they held clothing and school supply drives, taught lessons in refugee camps, and made connections with schools in the United States to raise money for refugee education. And the reason that I love civics so much and that I keep teaching is because of those initial experiences, seeing so many young people fight for peace in a region that has seen far too much conflict. And I saw them use dialogue instead of violence. I saw them rally as a community to help people who really needed it when their own government did not. And I've seen students do that everywhere I've taught, and I've certainly seen it again and again during my time here in Narragansett. It doesn't matter the nationality or country of the students. I've seen them all create meaningful change by bringing issues and ideas to their principal, working to make our school community more welcoming for all. I've seen them teach civics classes to elementary and middle schoolers. I've seen them lobby the town council or school committee. I'm sorry about all the emails you got during the Civic Action Project, by the way. Or not that sorry, it's good civic action, but you got a lot of emails. But I've seen them do that, and I've seen them respectfully voice ideas in class, and I've also seen them just simply listen to one another and hear what someone else has to say and just like try to make a connection. And doing those things is, like, as they work for bettering their community, is the best part of being a civics educator. And then to sort of wrap up, to brag about some of these students, when I did my thesis, one of my favorite definitions of citizenship is that it is a status, a practice, and a feeling, and I really like that idea, especially it's not just a legal thing, it's also something you have to do. And it is such a joy to see students practice their civic skills. And I'm just gonna call out some of the students who nominated me and the great things they've done as they've practiced in my class and even outside of my class. For example, Mia's remarkably competent reign as campaign manager for Michelangelo the Ninja Turtle, as well as her undying enthusiasm for discussing current events. I currently have on my whiteboard in my class, she's drawn a Middle East friendship chart to help people figure out who's allied with who and who doesn't get along, and it's been prompting like great discussions and like trying to analyze what's happening in the world, so shout out to Mia. There's also Karuna's thoughtful organization of her peers, bringing attention to national issues and prompting school-wide discussion about the most effective strategies for change. There's Grace's wrangling of unruly 8th graders, engaging them in productive dialogue about how to prevent future wars, simultaneously fostering a new middle school passion for collecting allies. And there's Kaylin and Tegan's calm and persistent voices in classes, encouraging stubborn peers to consider new points of view, emphasizing the importance of our shared humanity. And then there's Addie's plans for supporting future leaders in Model UN, and Sarah and Philly's exploration of the federal court system, and Evan Bose, I should him in there too. They created a giant red string detective corkboard in my class to track all of the different executive orders and all the different lawsuits against it, which looked like a TV show. It was very cool. But that's like a practice of being a citizen. I'm so proud of them for always taking the initiative and jumping right in to do that. And the feeling part of being a citizen is kind of one of the more harder things to do when you teach civics, because students need a safe place to explore what it means to be a young person in America and to determine what it means to feel like you truly belong. And I can't do that without their partnership in my classroom. You can't foster that feeling part with them as equal participants. And so I'm deeply, deeply appreciative of those students, but literally all the students I've had at Narragansett, their willingness to engage. I find them endlessly funny, smart, occasionally frustrating, as no partnership is perfect, clever and curious, and above all, they make me overwhelmingly and exceedingly hopeful. I love to hear them share their opinions and ideas and concerns about what it means to be a human being in the United States today, and I'm continually inspired watching them analyze, strategize, organize, and make change in their local, national, and global community. And that was a lot for those students who are there, so a lot of this is thank you to them for nominating me and being so willing to engage in civics.
If you could just stay for a minute, I know I just have a comment and then a quick question, and the committee may as well, if you don't mind. So first of all, a huge congratulations. This is extremely exciting and a great honor, and we really appreciate you taking the time to come tonight to really share about your background, which is really interesting, and our students are very lucky to have you with all of the experience that you bring and your enthusiasm, and it makes such a statement that the kids not only took the time to nominate you, but that they took the time to actually go to the State House and introduce you. I mean, that is a very hard thing for a high school student to do, because there's teachers that the kids love, and they respect, but to actually execute the plan of actually doing the nomination is a big deal. And then to go, doesn't seem like a lot, but to go from Narragansett to Providence and park and get dressed up and figure out where you're going, that's a really big deal. So thank you, for everything that you do for our district. It's very exciting. And my question is, can you share something maybe that you would be excited to try to do in the next couple years, or a career goal in the next 5 years, like just something that you're looking forward to in the future to try or to do?
Oh, sure. Well, I really, truly love trying to find creative ways to get everyone involved in a civic action type thing. So that's one thing I love, trying to make it better each year. But the other thing is, a lot of the students who nominated me are part of Model United Nations, and we have kicked butt this year, and I'm hoping to continue to do so. We did a mini 8th grade Model UN conference, which was very darling and enthusiastic, and I would love to keep doing that and try to find ways to expand it, because it's also a great leadership opportunity for the students running it, because they ran it this time and we were all very tired after, but I would like to try to keep growing that.
Thank you. Do any other committee members have any comments or questions? Diane?
I'd just like to add my congratulations to that of Tammy's, and say that I'm very happy that in the past years that there's been more emphasis on civics education in our schools. And I look at that Annenberg survey every year, and it seems like incrementally people are having a broader knowledge of civics and so forth. And I've always thought that it would be a good idea for students somewhere in their educational journey, if they had to take the same American citizenship test that people who want to become American citizens have to take. If they take that 100-question test, I think that's a very good measure of their civics knowledge.
I think they do in the 10th grade government class. I think they try it. Yeah, I think, Matt Jobert does it. I don't know how good they do on it, but I know they definitely do it and prepare for it and hopefully do well on it.
Yeah. Well, congratulations.
Thank you so much. Anyone else?
Yeah, I'd just like to echo what everybody's saying. It was so impressive, your background, and then the energy that you bring to the students, and they can feel that. And they gave it back to you, obviously, and we thank you for that. And keep doing what you're doing. Appreciate it.
I think I'm going to join everyone up here in echoing our thanks. It's unusual to find, it's hard to get students engaged, and you seem to have done that, and we're very happy to hear it, and this is particularly about an important issue such as civics, so thank you.
Yeah, I'll also add too, with so much going on in the world today, a lot of times people feel powerless, and I think having an understanding of civics and how the world works, I think helps kind of restore their agency and ensure that they feel like part of the global community, and that they can make a difference, even if it's just one small thing. So thank you for inspiring that in your students.
Thank you. And then on that, thank you in the fall when they do the Civic Action Project, and you probably get a lot of emails from seniors with interview questions. So thank you also, because I do think that also helps with agency to feel like, oh, I actually can get a response from someone in power. So thank you very much for that too.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, it's now time for open forum. Is there anyone that would like to speak? Okay, so hearing none, we are going to move on to oral reports. So for the student liaison report, our student couldn't make it here tonight. We do have the written report in the packet, and I just wanted to share a couple highlights from the student liaison report. And so Hannah talked about some of kind of the winter sports accolades, so that was pretty cool. So she wrote that Hadrian Duncan, a senior on the wrestling team, recently reached 150 career wins at the state championship, which is awesome. The most winningest athlete in 50 years of Mariner wrestling. Pretty cool. Also, the girls hockey team tonight is at the state championship game. And I don't know if that game has already been played, or there was some game that was, I thought, in like quadruple overtime or something, but.
I have not gotten an update yet.
Okay, all right, so let us know, I don't know if they're playing or if they finish before we finish, let us know, Pete. And it sounds like after a lot of weather issues, they did have their winter ball at the North Beach Clubhouse, great location on March 6th. Hannah gave a nice shout out to Ms. Jones, which we had the pleasure of having tonight. And then finally, senior projects are coming up very quickly, April 10th. So thank you to Hannah for that detailed report. There's a couple highlights from that. Okay, so school committee reports. Does anyone have a subcommittee report to give? CJ?
I do have one in regard to the District Wellness Committee that Gail Danderen and I have reestablished after a few years. We've gotten together, we have about 26 committee members that we met with this past month, and we got together. It's parents, it's staff members, administration, and we're looking at the policy and to go over. And we're going to meet again on May 11th, and each are going to reconvene from the 3 schools to go over the wellness policy compliance and look at the assessment and move forward. So we're working on that. Pleased to go over that and get that going. And then I also, in the Recreation Advisory Board, we're working on all the spring information getting out, and then they also have just printed up the summer schedule coming out for that. And like Restaurant Week is coming up next week, so be advised. And this will be coming out on social media for the summer schedule for the advisory board. So things are moving.
Summer can't come soon enough. And I think the first day of spring is like tomorrow, so maybe someday it'll get above 30 degrees, maybe. All right, thank you, CJ. Diane?
The policy subcommittee met on March 12th to review the artificial intelligence new policy that we're going to be discussing tonight.
Thanks, Diane. Dave or Justin, do you have anything? Justin?
No, not really.
Okay. Okay. All right, and my only update is we had our budget workshop number 1 on March 10th and budget workshop number 2 on March 11th. So I thought that was 2 great evenings where we had the principals, gave some great presentations, as well as, we heard from facilities, curriculum, transportation, IT, very informative. I think the committee had some really good questions, helped us to really dive deep into the budget, which is going to make tonight pretty easy after Pete's very thorough presentation, followed by the 2 budget workshops where we really went into everything in great detail. So certainly going to help us to inform our vote for tonight. So those were great workshops, and thank you to all the preparation that led up to those very productive evenings, and the snow couldn't keep us away. We had a little delay, but we made it, so that's good. Okay, we're on to the superintendent's report. Dr. Cummings?
Great, thanks, Tammy. So as you mentioned, we've been busy with the budget, and thanks to Karen and her team and Emily Sweeney and all those and all the principals and all our department heads who have really put in a thoughtful budget. So you all will vote on that this evening. So we are rooting on our women's hockey team tonight, as you mentioned, so that is a big deal. So let's keep our fingers crossed for them. They've had a great season. So one thing I did want to highlight tonight is that we were recently highlighted by the Rhode Island Department of Education for a really impressive growth statistic. So over the last 10 years, Narragansett has led the state significantly in the number of students who are now taking AP classes, advanced placement classes. And so that is really a K through 12 effort. So when students take AP classes in high school, they are far more likely to go to college. They are far more likely to complete college at a high level, and far more likely to kind of sustain and use their education long term. So we were mentioned as having an increase of 64% in the number of students who are, in the percentage of students who are taking AP classes over 10 years. Just for reference, the next closest districts were in the 30s and the 20s in terms of percentage. So that is a significant accomplishment for not just the high school, but for the entire district. So I really also want to highlight the strategy of the school committee. And so that's a direct result of, one of your long-term goals has been to have more students to access high-level rigorous classes, either dual enrollment or AP. And so that has been a focus of the school committee for a long time. And this data really shows the outcome of that focus. So congratulations to the high school and to the district. That's really a big deal. With that, we do have some other things coming up in the district. So it is testing season, and so we do have the state testing coming in late March and in April. We have the SAT day coming up in April, and we're really comes fast. We're starting to plan for our end of the year events, and so just an update to you all and to the community. So we had all of those snow days from the blizzard. First of all, thanks to our maintenance and operations crew. They did an amazing job of clearing the schools and getting us ready to go back to school. Also, many thanks to the town DPW in Narragansett. They did a great job of making sure our bus routes were cleared and worked in close partnership with us, and I'm really grateful for their partnership with that. Because we have extended the hours of our school, we are not in a place where we need to make up those days. And so if you recall, last year we applied for a waiver to be able to waive up to 4 emergency days. Right now, it appears that because it was a governor's emergency, 2 of those days won't have to be made up by anyone in the state. And because we have that waiver, because we extended our school day, we will not also have to do make-up days at the end of the school year. As a reminder, teachers do PD, professional learning, remotely on those days, right? And so that's part of our teacher contract. So they are working those days and have found that time really beneficial. Gary puts a lot of work into designing those days. And so our last day of school will still be on June 18th.
All right, well, thank you for that update and great forward thinking on your part, and, to work with the teachers and the teachers union and have our support behind that to make that, because who would have imagined we would have been having school closed for 5 days? That's a lot for Rhode Island, so. So any questions for Dr. Cummings? Justin?
No, but I just want to make a comment. One of the benefits we said originally with extending the school day just those few minutes seems to be paying off already. So that's one of the side benefits that really wasn't a selling point for us wanting a longer academic day, but is definitely, so I think kids will appreciate come June 18th. So.
All right, well, thank you. All right, so we're on to consent agenda. Is there a motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent to approve consent agenda items CA1B, CA1C, CA1D, CA2A, CA2B, and CA2C?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. We're on to the budget report. Karen?
Good evening. Expenditures for the 8 months ended February 28th total $21,060,384, and that's 56.77% of the budget. Expenditures and encumbrances total $32,493,364, and that's 87.59% of the budget.
All right, thank you, Karen. All right, so we are on to school committee business. The most important item is the first one, and that is the motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and the director of finance and administration to approve the fiscal year 2027 budget in the amount of $37,996,656.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. So Dr. Cummings, do you have any highlights or updates, anything you want to go over?
So I appreciate all the work that went into this budget. I would put out that this budget is extremely reasonable, that, it is right at the cost of inflation and actually below our contractual increases. That, just as a reminder, as a percentage of the town budget, the school budget is, in last fiscal year, was 39% of the town budget. When you look at kind of comparable districts in South County, again, those percentages of the town budget are in the 60% range, 70% range, and we're below 40%. And when you look at the outcomes that our students have based on that, I think it's pretty incredible. And so, the increase to the town appropriation part of the budget is at 2.3%. Again, very reasonable. And, I would argue we try to be as conservative as possible as we can be to be fiscally responsible, at the same time investing in our schools and investing in our students. As a part of this budget, we have our capital plan. As a part of this budget, we have our supporting our students, supporting our teachers. And so I would, again, recommend to you that this budget as is both funding what we need to continue to support our students and have excellence in teaching and learning, and at the same time, fiscally responsible so it's not overly burdensome on the community.
Are there any questions or comments for Pete at all?
I think I just want to, I guess, emphasize again, we've beaten inflation, I think, the last couple of years, which is really impressive to be consistent with that. We've also shrunk our percentage of the budget down, and the town budget itself has not been increasing greatly. So this has really just shown efficient, long-term planning that we have been able to accomplish in this budget. And this is another budget that accomplishes its goals while we've seen provide excellent education opportunities for our students. You mentioned AP, but there's been other, great indications. So I just really want to emphasize those parts of this budget.
I just want to say, I think it's worth noting what Justin just said about our budget coming in under the 2025 average inflation rate, which was about 2.7%. So coming in under that while still honoring our contractual obligations, I think was a great accomplishment. And thanks to everybody who worked on the budget.
Yeah, I'm going to echo that also, and in agreement, not just the AP, also the CTE programs, all the other programs in a small school district, being able to offer an array of programs out there and building up the curriculum. I think it's impressive.
And I, couldn't agree more. The questions that I had were all answered at the budget workshops. So feeling really confident, really comfortable, and just kind of agree with everything that's been said, so far, and feel very pleased moving this forward to the town council for their consideration and any questions they have. All right, so we're going to take a vote. Justin? Sure.
Sorry, I just have one more thought. I might have slipped my mind from the last work session, but we did find the money for the elementary school recess, gym, playground. Yeah.
Yes, so because a number of our capital projects came in under budget this year, there is room in this year's capital budget to support the installation of the playground.
All right, last call. Any comments or questions before we vote? All right, there's a motion on the floor to approve the budget. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. So thank you to Pete, Karen, and then all of the department heads and everyone, principals, for all their work. All right, on to item number 2. Is there a motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and the director of finance and administration to approve the purchase of 21 Dell Pro Max Tower T2 desktops from Dell Technologies, total cost $40,470.99?
So moved.
Discussion?
So,
Oh, I was going to say, at the budget workshop,
Yes.
Julio really explained the whole purpose for this and why we needed it, and kind of took our questions, so.
correct. So these are for the computer lab at the high school. These are the higher-end computers for the students that are doing work on AI and different high-level tasks.
Go ahead, Justin.
Oh, yeah, I just also want to emphasize, in case anyone at home is unaware, computer prices have been on a massive upward trend just in the last couple months. So getting these purchases, we've found we get better deals in bulk, and these are necessary. With that in mind, if it looks a little higher, it's because it is, and it's not because of what we're choosing to do.
And I think Julio did a good job kind of explaining the need, and, he's always seeking out, high quality but cost effective, and kind of, like you said, Justin, always being proactive. This isn't something, that the kids have been waiting for all year. This is to get the classrooms ready, and just improvements and enhancements. And Pete, was this any of the 21st Century Learning Technology grant funds, or is this from the capital budget? I can't remember. There was something we were purchasing from the 21st Century grant, the STEM funds. I don't remember.
Yes, this is coming from the 21st Century Grant for Technology, and because it was CTE funding, it was an allowable cost, and that grant was a total of $130,000. So far, we've spent about 90 of it, and so we still have another like 40 or 50,000 left to spend on future equipment.
So that's great. So just so people are aware, we have to purchase, and then we get full reimbursement for 100% of this because it comes from a state 21st Century Learning grant. And I would certainly hope that, we'll look to you and Pete and Julio to, to expend as much of the grant to the penny as possible before it sunsets and time runs out. But that's great. All right, yay, free desktop computers, so that's good. Okay, so there's a motion on the floor. Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. All right, the next one is a discussion, and it's a first read of a new policy, an AI policy. And so we are going to do a first read. And so my logistical question is, are we going to do a motion on the floor to approve the first read, or do we? Okay, so let's do that. So is there a motion to approve the first reading of the new school system AI policy?
So moved.
All right, discussion. Pete?
Great, thank you, and I'd like to welcome Vanessa Miller, our tech coach, who has been the key player in the development of this policy, who brings great expertise. So I just want to celebrate Vanessa for a minute. She's really, lots of districts have been reaching out to us to want to work with us and with Vanessa. She has been on, several state level commissions and committees working with AI in education. And so, this policy, what we did, and I can have Vanessa talk a little bit about the process, but we really wanted to have a lot of input from community. So Vanessa, if you could talk a little bit about the process we went through, and then we can answer any specific questions you all have about the policy. Just hit the button.
Is that on
There you
now?
go.
Okay, great, thanks. So we've been on a several-year learning journey in Narragansett. When we started exploring AI, looking into it, learning about it, and then teachers starting to explore it, finding tools that they could use in the classroom to support their teaching and their practices. So that took us several years to really get an understanding of what this is, what it isn't, and how we could possibly take it into the classroom. And then we reached a point where we were kind of at a stall. We were waiting for the state to release their guidelines before we started to draft our policy, so that we could be in alignment with the state. So to get that process started, we did involve multiple stakeholders, including our students, for their viewpoints before drafting the first version of this. The version that you read is version 4. So we did surveys of the community, of parents, of our students, of our staff, and we're able to compile that information. Some of the information is specifically from the parents is now being collected in a hub that Lauren has helped me put together on the school website. So it's under the technology website. It's now its own little sub-web page, and you can see a graphic that showcases the concerns of the parents in our district and also the opportunities that they see for AI in the district. So you can see those side by side, and we're also keeping a record of what the committee has been doing at each meeting. So that information was gathered for the last 2 years. I've been able to go into the Mariners courses at the high school and the middle school to deliver some preliminary AI literacy with the students. And at the high school, it was really more conversations, especially with our seniors. So the conversation was around, you've been in Narragansett, you know what Narragansett is. Here's this new tool. Where do you see it fitting? What are your concerns? And then can you write me a policy and one guideline? So we did talk about the difference between those two with the students. So I was able to gather those for the last 2 years. So I had those gathered plus those surveys. And then with that information, we collected interested parents who wanted to come in and be part of the committee, and including Dave and Justin, who were able to come and join us. And they looked at all the information from the different stakeholders. We also read multiple different articles on AI in education. We're able to review different policies from different states and different towns in Rhode Island as well, and get an idea of what we wanted that to look like here. So we did a nice Building Thinking Classrooms activity in our first committee meeting to really gather everybody's thoughts, collected their input, and we were able to put that down on paper. So once that was put down on paper, the committee was then able to read it, give their feedback. The tech team, including Julio, Jake, Jack, Derek, and myself, were able to review that during our meetings as well to add some more feedback to then keep developing these drafts. So that's what you're reading today, which is our 4th version. Did you want to add any more to the process?
One of the things, so first of all, was very engaged and thoughtful committee. One of the concerns that I think this policy reflects was about student data privacy, and so I think you see that highlighted in what you have in front of you. Another concern was keeping the human in education, and I think you're going to see that goes throughout our policy. I think you're also going to see concerns about misuse, right? And so I think we addressed that in the policy as well. And I will just speak to that for a moment. When you think about one of the big concerns about AI is around cheating, right? And cheating is cheating. We have a cheating policy, right, that intersects with this. When you're representing work that is not your own as your own, whether it comes from a book, the web, or from AI, it is still representing work that is not your own. And so those, even though it's more sophisticated, at the core, it's still representing and cheating, right? And so we know how to educate for that. We know how to look for that. And part of the onus on us as a school system is to design learning experience for students where it's not easy to misrepresent your thinking, where it's not easy to just get an answer from AI. So, there was a staff training piece with this as well. That's a part of our policy that we have been, I think, very thoughtful about and will continue to work on as we go forward. And there is a digital literacy component around this, an AI literacy component of this that Vanessa just mentioned, with students. And students have real concerns about the ethical use of AI. It's going to be a very significant portion of their lives going forward. And so the more we do to educate students, educate faculty, educate the community around AI, it's changing so rapidly, right? And so our philosophy is really around educating about not just what is, but what could be, and trying to make sure people are ethical and thoughtful about their uses of AI as we go forward. So I don't know if you want to add anything to that. And Dave and Justin, you all were part of the committee, so feel free to chime in if I'm missing anything.
Yeah, I'll start off. I mean, first off, thank you for including us in the committee, and the workshop was fantastic. It was great to see the educators, the members of the community, fellow school committee representatives come together and really just be an active part and take an active role in kind of molding this. One thing as part of that workshop, we went through and we reviewed other policies from other districts across the country. And when I saw the draft, I compared this kind of against what we read. Actually, I still have one on my desk, I think from somewhere in Texas that was my favorite. I took it home. And I really think that if we were to hold this policy up against kind of those other policies that we reviewed from multiple districts across the country, this policy actually really could stand on its own, and I would consider this to be one of the better ones. Some other things that I like about this too, or that I like about this policy is it's not a ban. It is essentially an appropriate use policy. So we're going to have to create an environment where our students can learn how to work with AI, can experiment with AI in a safe way. Because this is part of the future. And I think, you said, I think I got brought in, about a year ago, but you were working on it for a year prior to that. Just in these 2 years, this technology has advanced at such a rapid pace where, 2 years ago, it was very obvious that this was computer-generated content, where now you can have a fluent conversation with AI and use AI like a co-collaborator to actually produce creative work. And that's we don't want to hold our students back from that creativity, but at the same time, we want to keep them safe, and we want to ensure that they're using it they learn how to use it in a responsible way. So thank you again for including me, and I think this is something that you can be proud of.
And Dave, I just want to build on one thing you said that I think it's important for us to kind of emphasize, which is that, as you said, AI is often good as a collaborator for someone who has expertise in an area, right? And so rather than doing the work for you in those cases, it can help kind of develop further thought when you have a knowledge base to begin with. What AI and the danger we see in AI in education is that it can replace thinking for young students who don't yet have that expertise. And I think this policy really emphasizes that concern and mitigates against it, because what we don't want to have happen is to engage in practices that prevent the development of intellectual rigor for our students, so that then when they do develop that expertise and are older and are able to make finer pointed judgments in relation to prompts from AI, then it's more appropriate. But particularly for young students, but also in high school, it takes time to develop those thinking patterns, and we don't want AI to replace those. So I appreciate those comments, and I just want to emphasize that that's one of the concerns that is, I hope, mitigated against in this policy.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I just wanted to say I thought it was an excellent comprehensive framework for AI, and I was very glad to see that built into the policy was that the school committee would have the opportunity to review this policy at least once a year. And as Dave said, with the technology rapidly developing, we may have to look at it more than once a year. And of course, there might be state mandates that come out that we'd have to include, and research findings that might influence the policy. However, I think most of the fluid part will be in the AI guidelines for implementation that I understand is in the works right now, because that would be the operational piece to it. And so I'll be very happy to look at that when that's completed too. But excellent job. Thank you.
And it's just great to hear the process of all the stakeholders. So thank you to Vanessa, and thank you for coming tonight, too. That's helpful to have that. And as Diane said earlier, we reviewed this as a policy subcommittee, and I think it's great, and I think we're leading the way again, so it's very exciting. Any other final questions or comments? This is a first read, and we'll bring this back for a vote again for a second read and adoption next month. But any other questions before we vote on our first read?
No, just thank you. It feels very comprehensive and it's exciting. Appreciate it.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thanks, and I just do want to thank all the educators, the school committee members, the town council members, Pete, admin that were on this committee, and our student representative that was on this committee that helped make this happen, too. So thanks, everybody.
All right, we have one final voting item for tonight. Is there a motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent to approve the resolution authorizing and supporting the RIDE Stage 2 submission?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All right, Pete?
So what you have in front of you is, this is the formal just school committee acknowledgement that we are applying to RIDE for reimbursement for our capital plan. And so, as you know, we submit every 5 years a long-term capital plan and necessity for school construction plan to RIDE that reflects our capital plan as we go forward. And this is just an acknowledgement that the school committee is aware that we are doing that.
And this is, procedural, and again, it's always good that we are, staying on top of all the submissions, all the timelines, and I know Steve puts tremendous amount of work in that, and the building committee, gives their input as well, and we've done a great job always of just maintaining and protecting the town's assets, so, very good. Any other questions for Pete before we vote? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Anyone have any communications to share before we close?
I did have something brief.
Sure.
So CJ brought up it's Restaurant Week, and I heard that a portion of the Restaurant Week proceeds will go to our playground on the elementary school.
Great.
Worth calling out. I think that's the Narragansett Chamber that puts on Restaurant Week. Yeah, so thank you to the Narragansett Chamber for doing that.
All right. Anyone else? Okay. And our next meeting, so March 30th, Dr. Cummings is going to present the school budget to the town council, and that's at 6 o'clock here.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Is there a motion to adjourn at 7:50?
So moved.